So you spend a little time in the book on the greatest star of The Apprentice ever after Trump, and that is Omarosa, who achieved first name only status. Here's a quick look back at some of her antics.
I can't tell that, Katrina, because we sleep in the same room, yet you couldn't say to me, I had a problem with XYZ.
Because I felt like you were being fake.
I think being fake is waiting until I'm in front of 7 women and then attacking.
No. I'm very nice to everybody. I get along with everybody here. I get along with, you know what? You know why? Because I'm a good person. I am true to myself.
This is where the personal attacks come in. I didn't come here to make friends. I said that from day one. And if you all stop being so freaking sensitive.
Okay, so Omarosa was the reason to tune in. She was on multiple times. She came back, and Trump knew it.
They loved Omarosa. And even watching that now, like when I went back and rewatched the show, it's still an incredibly entertaining show, especially that first season. It's like the perfect season of reality TV. It's fun. The challenges are fun. Trump is the perfect person to host the show. It's just really, really entertaining. And with Omarosa, she came in, she had some very limited experience in the Clinton White House as an aide. And she came in, her career really, wasn't going the direction she wanted to. So she tried out for the show and she became the character that everyone loved to hate. She would say one thing to one person, one thing to another person, and they made her out to be this huge villain on The Apprentice. And Trump really liked that because she got so much attention, but not any attention that would take away attention from him. So they all thought that Omarosa was great for ratings. They brought her back twice when there were celebrity editions of The Apprentice in later years, and she obviously went with Trump to the White House. But Trump said something great.
I was going to say, and then he brought her back another time. He had her working in the White House. I actually interviewed her during that time. And she was talking about, she was doing real policy at points, like trying to increase the refugees from Haiti. She'd been, I'm trying to remember some of the agenda items that she said she'd been put in charge of. But then ultimately it ended, as it did repeatedly between Omarosa and Trump, in ruination and despair, where she was fired by John Kelly too, just as she was on The Apprentice. Here, I'll show you The Apprentice firing in SOT 27.
By the way, all my life, I've been hit on the head with plaster. I just don't get it. We all have problems. Life is full of problems. You're fired. I was a little tough with it.
That was a tough one. Go ahead, Ramin.
So I asked Trump why he took Omarosa to the White House, because I think that's a question that many of us had at the time, because, obviously there was so much drama around her. And he said sometimes he does things as an experience, and this is going into sort of looking at him as a reality star and then also looking at him and the choices he makes as a politician. He says he likes to do things as an experiment just to see. He knows they're not going to work, but he just likes to do it as an experiment just to see if it's not going to work. And I think he likes the drama. He likes the chaos. This book is called Apprentice in Wonderland because Jared Kushner in some reports from the White House once compared Trump to the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, and that he really embraces confusion and likes to see people scramble and likes to see things turned upside down. And I think by introducing Omarosa to the White House, he was programming a reality show, right? He knew that she would be good for quote ratings. And he probably also knew, or at least he said to me, that it wouldn't end well, but he thought it would be something interesting just to watch. And he's really interested in that. He's interested in creating a spectacle. And he's also interested in creating so much of a spectacle that there's no room for headlines for anyone else, which is what we're seeing right now. And, obviously.
Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the book gets really interesting because I love talking about The Apprentice. I used to love the show, I'll be honest. But what's really interesting about this book is that it shows us how all the things you and I have just discussed are preludes to and windows of insight into President Trump, how he got it and how he managed it when he had the presidency. And that's such an interesting way into him of all the bios that have been written about Trump. That's such a new and interesting way into understanding him. This is one of the things where even prior to becoming the host of The Apprentice, he used to pit, you write this in the book, like the New York Post and the New York Daily News against each other. And then he gets on The Apprentice and he picks two to try to pit against each other there. And then we did see him do the same thing in the White House.
And he treats his advisors in the White House like they're contestants on a reality show. And he does pit them against each other, and he does love firing people, and he does love being obviously the boss in every room that he's in. But this created the template for the politician that Trump became. And this is a really underestimated, undervalued comparison. I think often when political reporters are writing about Trump and the Trump White House, it goes from real estate to politics. And Eric Trump and I talked about this. Even Eric Trump said that this is part of his father's legacy. This taught being on The Apprentice, being in the boardroom, taught his father how to react to candidates when he debated them in 2016 in a very crowded Republican field. It taught Trump how to—
And moderators, you point out in the book.
And moderators. Can I ask you about that? Because I wanted to get— so Eric still mentioned the question that you asked Trump in 2015. He called it a, quote, sabotage question, which was a great question, by the way. And why is it 10 years later, they're still thinking about that? I mean, you really asked him a great question right out of the gate, but why are we still talking about that question? To me, I think it's because he's used to being on a reality show. And when you're on a reality show, you create feuds and you create fight and you create unnecessary drama, and you're really mean to people and say completely crazy things because it's good for ratings. And I think he follows that playbook. And unfortunately, it was very hurtful and awful, and everyone came together to talk about how inappropriate that was. But it's what he's been conditioned to do because he was a reality star.
Well, that's fascinating. I mean, I will tell you, it's crazy to me that we went through all the thing. And I remember you and I did an interview at the time. We talked about it. But, all this time passed. And I interviewed him in last September. So it's, 2023. And I saw him in July at a Turning Point event. And then I sat down with him in September. And both times, the very first thing he said to me was, "Did Roger Ailes know that you were going to ask me that question?" That's the first words out of his mouth both times at the debate. I had answered. By the time I saw him in September, I had just answered it in July, but it's still on his mind. And all I could think was, you've been the president since then. Move on. Why would you still be thinking about that? But he does. He brings it up still in his public events. It's incredible to me. I don't know why he's so obsessed with it, but I would suggest, for the record, that me suggesting in that question that Trump may have some issue with the Democrats using his history with women against him did prove valid to this day.
Oh, you were absolutely right. You nailed it. That was exactly the question to ask him in the first debate, and you were right.
Because you're really kind of going over what are your weaknesses? What are people going to use against you? Why should the Republicans nominate you or not nominate you? And you could see it coming like a Mack truck. I can see what they're going to use against you, sir. But he took it very personally. I think now we know why, because we've heard even in this Trump trial that behind the scenes, he was very worried about the woman issue. I want to tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. Leo was on a road trip and came across a suffering Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Leo did not ignore the dog. Instead, he rescued him and named him Delta. But sadly, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help back then, and so many more still do. And all of this inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue. It's the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, even horses from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, and a home. Look how beautiful this looks. April marked 45 years since Leo rescued Delta. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions to do what it does. If you would like caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner, because there are tax benefits here, potentially too. You could grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and speak with your advisor. We call dog a man's best friend for a reason. You could help those who need it most. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.